Hello everybody, my name is Commodore Boris, and today we're going over Theodora, who is quite possibly my favorite Garrison Commander in the game. We'll go over her skills, we'll go over her talents, and we'll go over when she's most applicable as a Garrison Commander. Without further ado, let's get started. Theo is a leadership Garrison Commander. This means that she could have mixed troops, but that also means that she can be applicable in a lot more cases than a archer Garrison Commander, or a cavalry Garrison Commander, or an infantry Garrison Commander. Her first skill is an AoE that does a large amount of damage, and then when expertised, she actually cleanses any debuffs on her before she uses a skill. This makes it hard for any real damaging effects to stick to her, especially when we get to the talents and you see how she reacts to being attacked. Her second skill involves increased defense and just a flat 10% reduction in damage from rally troops. This is really underrated because this is on top of your defense reducing the amount of damage you take and your health reducing the amount of damage you take. So this is completely separate from that, meaning you could stack defense and health and it doesn't really hurt you like it would if it was just a 20% defense increase. Her third skill is a 10% attack bonus, but also a 10% damage buff above 50%. It's kind of similar to how Khan operates, where if you keep her, and on the early stages of a rally, she will hit like a truck. 10% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got 2 or 3 million troops in that building, whether it's a flag or a fort, that extra 10% damage is going to hurt. And finally, she has a 10% chance to increase her damage by an additional 40%, which is essentially the Legendary Ring Season of Conquest item, but it's built into her kit. So this is where it really can cause a lot of damage, because every incoming attack can trigger that. That includes people swarming her from outside of the city and the rally hitting. So the more people that are hitting her, the more chances she's going to get a bonus damage, and then feed that right into her AoE. It makes her very, very dangerous. Next, we're going to go on to talents. The talents I use for Theo are built like this. I don't really invest too heavily in any one area because a lot of the garrison tree further on isn't that great. But the one things I want to point out is this skill right here, which is a 15% skill damage reduction, which is really, really underrated. A damage reduction here. A damage reduction here. A damage reduction here. So Theo has access to a lot of just flat damage reduction. On top of that, when you stack your increased defense here and rage when attacked, you just vastly increase the difficulty any rallying army is going to have to hit her. This is, of course, beneficial to you because that's the whole point of being a garrison, is to try to deter the enemy from attacking. But also you can build into leadership a little more if you would like, although I don't recommend it. I did build into Armed to the Teeth because that is a 3% damage dealt increase, which doesn't sound like much, but when you get to the reports, it'll show the amount of damage it does. Now we're on to my favorite part of Theo, where she really shines. This is a flag report from the last KvK we did, and we'll preface this by noting that it was an infantry garrison against a archer rally. So while I lost the initial rally, so to speak, trade-wise, and when you look at it, really the power's only a 200k, we had a lot more T4 than they did in that flag. When you get to the area around, the amount of damage she does to anybody who's anywhere near her, near this fort, near the flag, near wherever you're working on, it is insane. Because you see, you take zero wounded, and you're causing 20,000, 3,000, 6,000 deaths. And when you look at the losing report, when you add all these up, there's about another million power, so about 100,000 T5 in kills from people who were just around the flag. So this is where Theo especially shines, is anywhere where there's going to be a lot of movement through the corridor. There's going to be a field battle, or if the enemy just straight up has the field. If you put Theo in there, you will punish whoever is unfortunate enough to get in your way during that attack. Even if they're not attacking the flag, if they're from a different coalition or a different camp, they will be hurt severely by this. There were a couple of them here where they lost 12,000 of T5. They lost 1,700 T5 there. There's one that had in the 20s and 30s. And this happens pretty much every time I run Theo. People underestimate her, they get too close, and then they get hit with a huge amount of damage. Especially if you can get some field people to help fight around the flag and kind of hold those enemies in place fighting the other field marches. You can really cause this garrison to do extra damage and help support your field as well. Although I don't have any reports, because I usually am very safe with my city, Theo also makes an amazing defense for cities, especially with YSS, because your cities are naturally mixed troops, and you have such a large amount of troops that the skill damage, when it triggers, hits like a truck. The couple times I have been rallied during like Ark of Osiris matches, I've melted rallies that have come into me. And it's fairly common, like Shadow Legion, that I'm one of the first ones that clears the Shadow Legion attack, just because the sheer amount of troop count and sheer amount of damage is insane. Finally, we'll go over pairings for Theo. Honestly, Theo pairs well with pretty much every Garrison Commander because she can really be adapted to most things. While she won't be as good as the meta pairing for another Garrison Commander, she does provide a lot of solid bonuses. I like YSS as a secondary when I run Theo as primary. But in the case that you need a Garrison in a pinch, Theo pairs well with YSG is a good option. You could run Martel if you really wanted to with an infantry garrison. Or you could run Zenobia. You could run even Amani or Artemisia if you really wanted to. I like Flavius Theo, just looking at the damage, because Flavius here, with his talents, has a very special ability here. That if you keep it pure infantry, you could just have a straight 20% damage reduction. And it helps kind of make up for the fact that you lose that damage reduction in Theo's talents if you have her as a secondary, because that's one of the hardest things to give up on Theo, is her talents are truly, really impressive. But really, you can run anybody with Theo, but I think my most common recommendations are YSS, Zenobia, Flavius, and if you really are just getting started, YSG makes a really good option too, because you have a double AoE, and it just really helps deter enemies from pushing in. Lastly, we'll come back to gear. I mentioned this in my Garrison video, but I run this gear on Theo. Could be a little better, I would rather see a little more health, but it's one of my better Garrison sets. Unfortunately, I've had to build several Garrison sets, so I don't have the resources to build some of the accessories. But hopefully here in the next KvK or two, I'll be able to start building accessories. But I wanted to focus on my gear first, because the raw stats are going to be the most consistently beneficial for you. So I stacked a lot of defense on this, because there aren't a lot of great health availability items for infantry. But you could stack defense, health. I like to have the flag on all my Garrison commanders for march speed, because nothing is more irritating than trying to get into a flag and getting chased down by a bunch of enemies because your Garrison commander is not designed to run. So I like to build the flag on all my commanders that you can get from the Season of Conquest here. It's only 5% march speed, but it's better than nothing, and it helps provide a boost, and you'll see all my Garrison commanders have one. If you like this video, let me know by giving it a like. If you want to see more, feel free to subscribe and push the bell notification so that you never miss a Rise of Kingdoms video. If you find somebody that might benefit from this information, sharing is a great option too, because it helps let them know other ways to build their garrisons. And as always, good luck, fight well, and I will see you on the battlefield.